And welcome to our second live stream in 2 days. Amazing. I did say at the end of the stream yesterday with Gav and Mark that we'd try and do another live stream before the end of the week. But here we are, the next day, Wednesday. And the reason we've got this live stream is because for a while now I've been talking to a good mate of mine about appearing on the show and answering some of your questions and comments, responding to some of your comments. And he's in a fairly difficult time zone for us Euros, which is California, 8 hours behind Spain, 7 behind the UK at the moment. And he's a busy boy too. He works hard. And so to get him to give us a slot when we can talk to him hasn't been that easy. And so we got it. And now I thought, yeah, let's go for it, go live. And with no more ado, therefore, I'd like to introduce my friend and colleague for many years, Kenny Handkammer. Kenny, welcome to the show, and thanks so much for joining us, mate. What time is it actually where you are now in Cal?
It's 20 past 9 in the morning, and thank you, Peter. It's good to see you again. It's been a while.
Yeah,
We've done a couple of these a few years ago now, but yeah, very, very enjoyable.
I mean, Kenny, there's so much to talk about from your how you got to where you were in Formula One, the change you made, what you think about Formula One today. So many. So let's just start with the first big global question, which is you are, I would say you're in a unique position in terms of your Formula One background and the Formula One that you knew and probably loved. I suspect 13 world
Yes.
championships, a lot of great drivers with whom you work, a lot of great people, wonderful teams, a very different Formula One to today, but nonetheless, it's related to what you're doing now because you are a senior player at Lucid, which is a senior company in terms of EV technology, cars, and drivetrains. And so I'm fascinated to get your view on Formula One 2026.
Um, yeah, I mean, it's a bit of a mixed bag, and I think um, I've said this before on with various people. I think it's just too complicated.
Do you?
It's There's too much of this regen. There's too much of having to unload the power, put it back on again. They're trying to all do this on a formation lap as well, right? Which is they're already having to heat up brakes, heat up tires, and then they've got all this battery stuff going on, which I think that's probably put some people in jeopardy of not having hot enough brakes or hot enough tires going into the first corner. Um, it's just too much, I think. I mean, I think what the FIA should have done is they should have done the new era. They should have done one or the other. Introduce the engine for 1 year and then do the aero, but not all of it together. I think it's too much.
But do you think, I mean, just talking about the power unit though, do you think that Formula One needed to go to this 50-50-46, whatever it is, 54
Well,
ratio, electric to ICE? Or do you think it was
I
okay as
mean,
it was before with hybrids?
I think it was okay with hybrids. You know, I work for an electric car company, right? So it's either for me, it's either one thing or the other. The hybrid thing works. I'm still a bit of a traditionalist with, I came from the V10 days, V8, V10 days. There's nothing better than that noise, I think, and it's raw. I think this whole thing of drivers having to save things and etc. I think it takes away the element of a raw driver being able to just go and race as hard as he possibly can to the end of the line. We worked with Nelson Piquet and we've worked with other great drivers, and you see some of those old races. They're just, yes, the gaps were bigger in some ways, but some of the driving was just spectacular, I think.
Yeah, well, I have to say I agree with you, and being trying to be as objective as one can while still being opinionated, if that makes any sense. I think that there's some brilliant technology there, and we have to acclaim Formula One for the technology that it's achieving and the way it's using battery power. At the same time, there is that balance to be struck with racing and all the things we know and love. And yeah, maybe we're grizzly old men, or maybe I am, but I think
I definitely am.
well, yeah, no, no, but I think we can, I think we can relax on this, because the reality is Formula One is about very, very, it's about maximum speeds, it's about performance, it's about, and I dare say it's about noise, and it's about the perfection of the drivers. And we had a big discussion yesterday about turn 7 in China, which is a really impressive corner, or was, and how basically they're just losing power halfway through the corner. And but we have Mark Slade on, who you might know actually. I'm not quite sure if you know Mark, but he obviously at McLaren, Mercedes, Renault, and also at Haas, Ferrari, brilliant engineer, lovely guy. And he was tying it all to lift and coast and saying, well, lift and coast has been around for a long time, but I don't really think in terms of lift and coast when I think about motor racing and drivers and corners. I always think about the qualifying lap and the ultimate lap and what they're doing around the corner. I don't know. I mean, was lift and coast something that was big in your life in Formula One? Was it a big talking point?
Not too much. I mean, I left in 2014, so last the first hybrid year. So I did one hybrid year with Kurz, etc.
Yeah.
But I think the other point is, look, there was 4 cars that never got on the grid.
Yeah.
The last race, and that's car problems, right? And I know they'll fix those. They will iron them out. But when was the last time 4 cars never made it to the grid?
Yeah. No,
so it shows you how hard it is for the teams, because these teams are fantastic engineers. They've got everything all the tools to do their job, but to not make the grid is, for me, is shameful.
Did you ever have that? Did you ever experience that with your car? One of your cars?
I think I might have done when there may have been an accident.
Excluding a shunt. I mean, I'm
no, never.
Yeah, and both cars.
No, not in my days through, since '89 all the way through to 2014. Yeah. I never experienced that with my team. I mean, starting from the pit lane, yes. But not actually making the race. No, I mean, that's also quite heartbreaking as well for everybody that's involved. The engineers, the technicians, the factory people going, "Oh my God, we didn't make the race." How does that make you feel?
Yeah, no, it's the mechanics. I mean, it's such a letdown, isn't it, for everybody, but particularly the mechanics, given the amount of work that you guys have to put in always.
Yeah, that, the sponsors, it's everything now, right? It's such a big circus.
Yeah.
There's people organising after parties, and you don't even make the race. There's people organising, all sorts of things that go on behind the scenes. Can you imagine being a VIP guest at McLaren and spent $15,000 on a paddock club ticket with all your friends? You're not making the grid. It's a bit of egg on everybody's face. So I think that was pretty sad for me.
Kenny, another question. Well, no, there are many questions, but another thing I want to quickly ask, because I'm desperate to know. We've chatted about this a little bit, but how has the switch been for you from Formula One and the Formula One that you knew to, I don't know, how would you describe it? Corporate business, the world of automotive engineering, obviously, but it's a completely different change, and you're dealing as much with people as you are with technology, I would imagine. And it's not something that you did, obviously, in your Formula One days as much, but obviously you've made the switch incredibly well, and it's so good. I've got to say, and not in a patronizing way, it's so good to see a Formula One mechanic, and you're not the only one, obviously, but a Formula One mechanic of your stature going on to have a great career like this. And it's good for Formula One. It's a lot of respect for Formula One, obviously, by the automotive industry.
Well, thank you for that. I have to say that, okay, I was chief mechanic for 9 years at Red Bull. And when you're chief mechanic, you have to deal with everybody. You have to deal with the engineers back in the factory. You have to deal with the drawing office. You have to deal with every single department, logistics, parts, the technicians, the setup crew, everything. So you build relationships with everybody. So you're basically involved in you get involved in all of those departments with all of those things. And I think what you learn in Formula One is so many things, because it's so complex. There's so many different aspects and people that you have to deal with in different departments. That's helped me tremendously. That I have 6 departments that report to me at Lucid,
Wow.
and everything's about everything's about people. Every business, it doesn't matter what it is, it's about people and having good people working for you and building those relationships. That's what I attempted and did try to do it in Formula One. I think I did okay at it, and the transition to come into corporate life. Yes, if you look at Formula One became very corporate. It wasn't when I started, but it came corporate. Look at the marketing aspect of it and all the other things. I think it sets you up to give you gain so many values out of it, and it teaches you so much, and you're dealing with you're dealing with you're having conversations with the CEO of the company. It's the same as having conversations with the likes of Christian Horner or Adrian Newey, Rory Byrne, and all those other guys. So I think it's just a great breeding ground, to be honest. And I've been very fortunate as well. I've been very lucky. I've worked with some amazing people in Formula One, not just drivers, but engineers and designers. Through the top three, which is John Barnard, Rory Byrne, and Adrian Newey. I don't think you can get much better than that. So I've been privileged. So
Well,
I
it's
think,
funny
yeah.
you should say that, Kenny, because we've got quite a lot of questions already. And here's the first one from Sarosh Soman, who is one of our regulars. How would you compare the design philosophies between Rory and Adrian? Where was it that Rory was better than Adrian and vice versa?
I tell you what, they're so similar. They're so similar. It kind of makes me laugh a bit. They have even some of their mannerisms are the same. So I think, yeah, there's not much between them, to be honest. And they're both fantastic people, and I'm friends with both of them. And I saw Rory last year at the Benetton reunion, and I saw Adrian the day before at the 20-year anniversary of Red Bull. So it was quite good. And I brought my son there, which was nice, and he met everybody. So yeah.
And the same gentleman, he actually on this one because we had Kevin, we had another Kevin on the show recently. I'm sorry about that. He said Kevin rather than Kenny, but I know he means you. I was reading Ross Brawn's book in which he described his Benetton days. And how would you compare that era with Ross, Michael, Rory, with the Red Bull era, Christian, Adrian, Sebastian Vettel?
It had similarities, but by that time, Formula One becomes way more corporate. Formula One back in those days, the Benetton days. I know you probably are aware we had a kind of a reputation for partying a lot, and we were a bit out there compared to other teams. But I think really it's just the way the corporation changed. But we still had fun at Red Bull.
Yeah, I'll go. I was wondering whether I should ask you about this or not, but I'm very interested to know what you think about Jonathan Wheatley eventually leaving Red Bull and going to Sauber, where he obviously did a very good job, and what you think the chemistry was like between Jonathan and Christian Horner towards the end, and that whole business, and Christian leaving as well. I mean, a lot of changes from your perspective, the Red Bull you knew and loved, but
Yeah,
can we talk a little bit about Jonathan Wheatley?
of course we can. He's a very good friend of mine. I mean,
Yeah.
I actually helped him get his job at Benetton back in those days.
Wow.
So yeah, he's a good friend of mine.
Wow.
He was working with Kerry Adams. You know Kerry Adams,
I
don't you?
do very well.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. So he was working around the corner. I was at Tiger Race Cars, building sports cars and C2 cars at the time
Eh,
before I got into Formula One, and with Howden Ganley, who's a good friend of mine, and helped
mm,
me tremendously get into Formula One and etc. And then I basically pushed. I wanted to get into Formula One, and long story short, I got into Formula One. And then I was still friends with Jonathan, and I used to go and see Kerry in High Wycombe. And I said, do you fancy coming along? And it was like, yeah, okay. And then we got a minute interview with Gordon Message and Nigel Stepney, and he joined us in 1991, which was great.
I got the feeling that towards the end, Jonathan was a bit frustrated not to have a way of progressing at Red Bull. Would that be right?
100%. I mean, there's no doubt that Jonathan is team principal material. He's extremely good at what he does.
Mm.
Um, we, it's we went through, building and challenging other teams at Benetton, which were always the underdogs, and created the same again, exactly the same, almost identically at Red Bull. They only finished seventh, I think, was the highest they'd been in the championship. And we went there and we had to change a few things, and we had to put in the ethos of a can-do attitude, and we can win, where everybody was laughing, well, we're never going to go anywhere, and it's a bit of fun. And between a group of us, and it was great to be a part of that, we managed to change the mentality of the team, which is, quite challenging.
There's a certain irony now, is there not? It looks obviously as if Jonathan's going to go back to Aston Martin with Adrian. The whole thing, you think, what was it all about? Why didn't Adrian just sort all that out and take him to Aston in the first place?
Yeah, I think it was a timing thing. I don't know if Adrian had already committed to Aston Martin at the same time that Jonathan was having talks with Audi. So there was probably there might have been a bit of a grey area there. And if put yourself in Jonathan's shoes, he's going there, he's going to Sauber with the vision to set it up with Audi. He's a massive Porsche fan. We know that. It's a fantastic opportunity for him. So it's like, well, I think he'd done that deal before, Christian was out. So it was a case of, well, I'm not going to get it in Red Bull, so why don't I go to that? And the opportunity to go and live in Switzerland, why not?
Yeah.
So I think it was a timing thing more than anything else.
Kenny, well, speaking of him living in Switzerland, what's it like living in California? Tell us about your life there.
Oh, it's horrible. It's 32 degrees today. I think waking up, and look, you live in Spain, and it's very similar. You wake up and pull the blinds back, and it's sunny in the morning, puts a big smile on your face. And I think, yes, it's fantastic. It's been a fantastic opportunity for my family, for my kids to be able to live the second half of their life. They came out at 10 and 12, because I've been here 11 years now, in April, for them to play American football. My daughter went to Boston University to study computer science and graduated from there. And my son's back in Oxford Brookes now doing business and finance, and he'll be here tomorrow for Easter. I think it was all about the opportunity for the kids. I was at a time in my life, and I had a particularly good offer to go to Tesla directly from Elon Musk, to be a director of Tesla, which I took that up, and from then on it just happened.
Do your kids speak with an American accent?
Sadly.
Right, let's
I hope I haven't picked that up.
Before we get on to more questions from the viewers, let me ask also about a little chat we had last time we spoke, actually, and I was saying what changed for you at Red Bull. And I think I'm right in saying that there was a time when Adrian would sort of say, look, we got to get this done. Can you do this mod? And we'll see what you can do. See what you can do overnight. We'll get it going in the morning. And you'd go off, and you would love that situation where you would have that interface with Adrian, and you would translate what he wanted to do into something on the car the next day. But then that all went away quite quickly at a certain point, and Formula One lost that ability to go out and be that creative. Is that right?
100%. We used to do some phenomenal things. I was the first person to bring 3D printers trackside. So we'd send a CAD file down the line, and we'd 3D print overnight. We'd come in the morning. It might be for a wing extension or a flap or a gurney. Then we'd either, if it's usable, we would use that, or we'd put a carbon splash layup on it and get it ready to go out and run for Friday morning or Saturday morning. Or they found a little flick in the wind tunnel that worked, with 3D print it and get it on the car. That was exciting for me. I had a conversation, funny enough, with Jonathan. He said, you know what? He said, you're just making more work for yourself. I said, well, I'm not really, because I'll probably have to do it in a different format anyway. And it's performance, right? So it was like, yes, there will be some painful times, but it was a huge advantage that nobody else had 3D printers trackside. And then obviously, that leaked out, and then everybody's got them now. But we used to do some unbelievable things. We'd have front wing failing during practice, and we'd have to go to a machine shop and get some stainless steel and try and bond them into the end of the front of the rear wing, which we'd do like a 78-hour shift on. We'd do 1 or 2 days of no sleep. But it's funny how that none of that happens now. There's all curfews. The all-nighters we used to pull off were quite regular. I used to get a job list. They're out. I think they leave around 6:30 at night. I used to get a job list which is 7 or 8 hours long at 6 o'clock at night. Yeah, Friday was always a 22-hour day for me. It was set in. That was you're not going home for 22 hours.
There was no talk of curfews then at all, was there?
No, they came in. They came in then for Saturday night, but Friday night you could do them. But in the early days, there was definitely no curfews whatsoever. As you know, I mean, you were your team manager at Williams, and it was like it's work, and you had to literally do whatever was needed, and you were always reinventing things as well, which it was bloody hard work, but it was very enjoyable to put a lot of effort into something and get that satisfaction that you've achieved your goal at the end of it. It didn't always work, by the way. We were never always successful.
Speaking of my time at Williams, we overlapped a little bit, I guess, in that respect. I was quite, Dickie Stanton was Dickie, and Dickie much more than I, but obviously one of the things we were always trying to do was improve pit stop times. And we were quite chuffed that we were sort of getting down into the 4.5 second, maybe no, not really high threes, that's exaggerating. And then along comes Kenny Handkammer at Benetton and does whatever you did back then, I don't know, was it
we something? 2.7, I think, with Ricardo Patrese.
You had to stop. Kenny, it was just ridiculous. What did you end up with in the end? It was under 2, wasn't it? Well under 2.
We were at Red Bull. We were the first team to go under 2 seconds, 1.98 seconds in 2012. That's a long time ago now, by the way.
Yeah, well, it is a long time ago. The biggest problem we had was that we never ever had a car in the race shop that we could practice on. So what I did when I was there was construct all these sort of things where we had them exactly the right height and and they were heated, and we did wheel changing on these sort of uprights in the middle of the race shop, which worked quite well. You couldn't really simulate anything, but how did you get around that problem of there being no cars to practice on? Did you do everything at the racetrack really on a Thursday? Was that how it all evolved?
Mainly
the show cars are not very.
When we were at Benetton, mainly, but when we went to Red Bull, we had electric F1 car.
Yeah, right. About which they've still got, haven't they?
And yes, 100%. It's probably the same car that we put together. They probably changed brake ducts and uprights and made it a little bit more updated. But that was quite quick. So we used to drive that through the factory, stop in the pit stop area, I think, and do the pit stops. One of the things we stumbled on to improve pit stops is because the guys were building the cars during the day, and it's like, we've got to do pit stop practice. So it was, oh God, I've got to do pit stop practice. This is going to be boring. And so we set out a goal. If you can do 3 at 2.4 seconds, you can go back to work. And it was like that straight away. They just got on it, because it's not like I've got to do 50 pit stops, because you also then can get injuries, right? And it's boring for the mechanics. It's taking time out of their day that stopping them from finishing their job. So as soon as you gave the guys a goal, within, we were doing literally less than 10 pit stops. It's okay, right, get back to work again.
Yeah.
So less was more.
Yeah. And of course, the torque ratings on the wheel nuts had some bearing on it as well. And we certainly, 1991, we had much higher torque rates, and we just couldn't get the guns out in and out as quickly as you guys. And I think that was a legacy of the John Barnard uprights. I think I may be wrong there, but John was the first guy really to have quite relatively low torque rates from the Ferrari 693.
Right. Beautiful car.
Well, yeah, absolutely a beautiful car.
Probably the best ever.
Yeah, gorgeous. I mean, wouldn't want to spend too much time trying to develop it because, like all Adrian's cars as well, designed microscopically to have no margin for improvement whatsoever. Everything fitted like a glove, but that was
Yeah,
it.
and
But a beautiful car.
John Barnard then came to us. Then
Yeah,
came to Benetton after that, and
yeah.
he had some tremendous ideas and electronic roll bars and all sorts of other tricky things. We had special bolts made which had a imperial shaft for the rose joints, but it was a metric nut. So and they cost a fortune, and they were made out of some very exotic material. I can't remember now, but they cost an absolute fortune. I wish I had one, to be honest, because they were just beautiful.
Mm.
Yeah,
I,
John is a very special guy.
when you say you wish you had one, have you got quite a lot of stuff there, memorabilia from your racing days,
I'll
Ken?
tell you what I've got, if you want me to show you.
Yeah, yeah, of course. Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Here we go. This this is the first ever carbon fiber steering rack.
Yeah.
So it's not power steering. It's complete rack and pinion carbon fiber with a titanium bar.
Hmm.
And
Beautiful.
that was about to go in a skip. So I thought I'll take that.
What year is
And
that
that was
then?
designed by Rob Marshall. Rob Marshall.
Oh, really?
I worked with at Benetton, Renault, Red Bull, and now he's obviously one of the main men at McLaren now. A lovely guy
Well,
and
the main
fantastic
man, isn't
engineer.
he? He's just done a brilliant
Yeah,
job. I think he was the first engineer that Adrian employed at Red Bull, is he not?
yeah, and he was chief engineer. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
fantastic guy and a complete gentleman too.
yeah. No, another question says, I mean, this is from Drew. It's more of a general question about what we've been talking about a lot on this channel about the corners and how difficult how different they are today. Hi guys, Peter always says it sucks that the cars clip into fast corners. For example, turn 9, 10 in Melbourne, we can forget about it. What could be the ways to correct that so the drivers can push full on those fast corners? I mean, you've got quite a lot of experience with Formula E and electric cars in general. Kenny, do you think the mistake was to have this necessity to do it within the lap or 2 laps to regenerate the electricity, and they should have had some other system where they can do it in pit stops or something? Or I don't know. What would be your take on
It
that?
certainly doesn't help, and I think they just lack power. They need more energy, so you don't have to go through all of this.
Mm,
You know, I either make the the ICE engine more powerful or find a way of turning up more electricity.
yeah, sounds
It's,
simple, really.
they're having to do it for necessity. That they haven't, it's power restricted.
Yeah,
And it must be. I mean, I know even Lando's coming out and talking about it now because I know Max has had a beating about he's not enjoying it, and I get it, right? And it's not. And Max isn't the guy that's saying that because he's not winning.
no,
He said it. He said it from day one, right? Not knowing how competitive he was going to be. Max is a raw racer. We know his dad very well, and he's at age. He's proven everything he wants to do, and I can see him moving on. He had unfortunately he was disqualified, but he had a fantastic weekend at,
didn't he?
at Nurburgring, and that's what he wants to do. He wants to go out and have fun and race, and
Yeah,
racing should be fun. And for me now, it's just too complicated. I mean, all these all these things you need to do, and people are confused about all these acronyms and what people are saying on the TV. They don't want to know that. They
no.
just want to go. They just want to see pure racing. In my eyes, maybe I'm just too old school.
Well, it's interesting to hear you say that because, from my perspective, Formula One's becoming quite polarized between the people that think it's great technology and we should accept it, and you've got to be very technically, uh, you've got to have a technical brain to really get into it, and if you don't, let's look down on that lot. And then equally there's the other side of the fence, which is we just want, we want drivers to drive, we want the cars to be quick and demanding, we want the corners to be demanding. This is Formula One, and they kind of look over the fence at the other lot now, and we've got this sort of polarization of Formula One, which is not healthy at all. and it's not really an age thing either. It's you know, there are quite a lot of young people saying, you know, don't blame us, we didn't want this, and that was on our most recent live stream. And okay, it's a tiny sample of it, but you know, it's very refreshing to hear you say that, because you're saying that from an electric vehicle perspective, which is your profession now, as a Formula One, you know, person who's been in that industry for a long time, and you can see both sides of it. And it's great to hear you say that, Kenny, to be honest, to be absolutely frank. And for me, it's the big test is going to be the Japanese Grand Prix, because, you know, like you, Suzuka is just this brilliant circuit. But if they water down turn one by taking the power away from the cars into turn one, that'll be very sad, I think. And the other two corners where that might happen are going to be the Degnas, Degna 1 and Degna 2, because that's got a long straight leading into it. And I fear that those two corners are going to lose a lot of their heart and soul this weekend. I hope not.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, we all know Japan is a phenomenal track, and we've seen a lot between us go on, and especially in that first corner live when we've been there, the Senna Prost stuff and etc. But yeah, I think it's going to be a kind of a weird season, because it's so track dependent. You know, what's Hungary going to be like? You know, they're all challenges, and I don't know. I think hopefully the teams will get on top of tweaking what they need to tweak. Maybe the regulations might get tweaked, but then there's a very good argument to say, well, you know, Mercedes has made it work. Stuff you, we're not going to change the regulations, right? There's going to be a lot of kickback. So hopefully the teams will get on top of stuff. Obviously Aston Martin's got its bigger challenges, and I hope they get resolved soon, but get them in the mix.
Were you ever involved in any car that had some sort of chronic harmonic vibration issue?
No. I've had some terrible engines. We had that 32 was it 32 or 37 degree V10 Renault engine in like the 2000s. Used to fill it, used to put the water heater on at night time, and it used to fill up the head with water. So you come in, have to do an engine change first thing in the morning.
Yeah.
That was a bit of a bind. Not vibration issues, and it's so unusual for that to happen, because they would have had the engine on a dyno for months, right?
Yeah.
You would have known that you had, you know, a vibration issue. There's certain things you can do by putting counterweights on the crankshafts, etc. But then that's also a weight penalty, etc. And to get rid of the vibration, there's things you can do to crank and other things. So they just need to identify what it is. Oh, look at that.
Yeah, not bad, eh?
Bloody hell, that's a classic.
It's absolutely beautifully made. Still perfect. Look at that. Just like
where did you steal that from?
Kenny, getting back to serious things. I don't know how many people you know at Red Bull now in the design engineering department, but do you think where do you think they are now without Adrian? How quick a team is that? How good a car is that now, do you think? And can they still be very, very good?
Good question. Obviously, Adrian is key. Was key. I think he's such big boots to fill. I mean, just look at his career. If they can turn it around, if they've got the technical skill, not sure, to be honest. They did a good job. You know, last year nearly won the championship with Adrian stepping out of it, but to be honest, that was still his car. So yeah, it could be a challenge. I think there's so much change there. You know, you've lost your team manager, you've lost your technical director, you've lost your team principal, etc. So
he lost his aero. He lost his understudy aero, Pete Prod, a while ago. I mean, he
went back to McLaren.
Yeah.
So unsure. Can't really answer that, to be honest.
Okay. All right. Okay. Next question from a viewer is from Norshala. Thank you very much. Hi, Peter. Just wanted to thank you for these great interviews. Well, don't thank me. Thank Kenny for this one. And wanted to ask, what does Kenny miss most about the old times of Formula One?
I think it was just it was just a lot more fun. It was, yes, we did take things seriously. We were professional, but it was just it's probably the best way of looking at it is something like, because I'm close to San Francisco, it's probably like living in San Francisco in the 1960s. It was just a little bit more freer and a little bit more fun. We did take things seriously. And we were professional, and we always wanted to, we were the underdog team back then at Benetton, and getting satisfaction from being the underdog and beating the likes of Ferrari and McLaren was phenomenal. But I just think it was not as corporate. I think that's the best way to explain it. Not as corporate.
Japanese Grand Prix this weekend. Did you have any horrendous evenings at the log cabin at Suzuka on the Sunday nights?
Yes. I had one actually with Michael Schumacher and Ayrton Senna.
Oh, well, that's hard to beat, actually. I'm impressed there, Kenny.
We had a few drinks, yeah. So
wow. Cool.
The log cabin, but also one of the last times I was in Suzuka, that was the time that we worked all day, all night, and all day again, and then we got back to we had a little slot in the morning. It's like, right, do you want to go back and get a shower and put a new shirt on, or do you want to have a beer? It's like early hours of the morning. It's like, okay, let's have a beer. And we had a quick beer, and then we worked all the way through the next day. The guys loved it. They loved that motivation. You could say it's professional, unprofessional, but when you work into that manic, through those manic times and trying to achieve things, we went back to the hotel. We got back about 7, 8 o'clock at night, and we went back out for beer again till midnight, and then we went back and won the race.
What a story!
It wasn't all bad.
Brilliant. Max 790. Hi, Kenny. What made Michael so special as a driver? Did you notice anything different from his data to other drivers?
I think it was everything. He changed everything about drivers. It's particularly fitness. I mean, he'd train 5 or 6 hours a day. Nobody was in the same league as him as an athlete. He was, he had his own trailer with his own gym in it, sponsored by
TrackNinja.
Yeah. He had that. We noticed the transition from one year to the next. He came back, and all of a sudden he had this neck that was like, where the hell has this come from? So he'd been training so hard and he just said, a lot of people say his reactions were not as quick as other drivers, but he just knew where to find different grip levels. Bit like Senna, I guess. Not as good as Senna, I don't think, but he was phenomenal and a nice guy, a really good guy. I think the British press gave him a hard time because of his nationality. He came across as arrogant, everybody said, but he was very shy.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Lovely guy. I always got on well with Michael as well. And I think it was also not only the British press with the Germans, it was the British press pushing Damon as well. That was the other thing, wasn't it? It was the Brits against the Germans. Jos Verstappen's doing reasonably well, very well in Rally 2 at the moment with his Skoda. He's winning rallies. He's in the top 3 quite a lot. What was he like to work with as a Formula One driver, Kenny?
Good fun. Really good fun.
How much time did he spend in Michael's techno gym?
Not as much as he probably should have done. But I don't think he ever went into his gym. But no, Jos was very talented. It was a bit of a mixed bag at when he was at Benetton, because you got up against Michael Schumacher. It's the same as your teammate with Ayrton Senna. We've been fortunate to have those few people that have been phenomenal, and they're always, the second driver is always going to be painful, no matter how talented they are.
Yeah, and it's similar with Max Verstappen, of course, and Lewis for that matter. Next question from Digital Laritsen. Hi, Peter. Sorry for an off-topic question, but can we draw any parallels between Adrian and Aston and Paddy Lowe at Williams?
Not really.
No, I mean, what you're talking about is how things haven't gone well. They didn't go well for Adrian when he went to Aston. They haven't gone well, and they didn't go well for Paddy when he went to Williams. That's what I think this is all about. I think the parallel is that Probably in the case of both of them, are very different engineers. And Paddy, not an Adrian Newey by any stance, but equally Adrian, not a Paddy Lowe in terms of what Paddy's very good at doing. But I think that both of them completely underestimated, or maybe overestimated, I don't know which it is, the role that the management should be playing in the team based on what they were used to with the other teams they'd worked for. And they sort of took things they took for granted, things Adrian probably took for granted at Red Bull, he assumed would happen at Aston Martin. They didn't, like obviously keeping on top of what Honda were doing for 9 months. And with Paddy, I guess it was a similar thing. He'd worked at the proper Williams, and then he went to McLaren, then he went to Mercedes, all good teams, if I may say so. And then he goes to Williams, and it's like mayhem, and nothing's happening as it should. And I suppose those are the parallels. So it's it's an interesting point that you make. Digital
wasn't Paddy Lowe more specialised trackside engineering rather than behind the scenes factory and design? I
think that's right. I don't think
that's how I remember Paddy Lowe.
I mean, I think Paddy, obviously when he was at Williams, he was very much working with Steve Wise, and he was with the active department, and that was all very good. And then he went to McLaren, and he was more sort of general engineering and working overall on the cars, and he started to get a feel then, I think, for trackside engineering and being at the track and being competitive and wanting to do that. And I think Toto realized that, saw that, and that's why he hired Paddy to go to Mercedes. And he was going to go back to Williams actually, but then when Toto went to Mercedes, he took Paddy to Mercedes instead. And it was always to be a sort of joint team principal thing, not about joint, but maybe assistant team principal. And then for some reason it all fell apart. And whether or not Paddy was trying to, in Toto's eyes, was taking too much of the glory or whatever, I have no idea. But something happened. And then I don't know, he got Williams offer and then did go to Williams in the end. But of course it was a very different Williams then, with a completely different management thing, which was a disaster. So that's where it all went wrong, really. And he went from being, sort of fairly boffinish engineer in the Williams active ride days to wanting to run a team and enjoying working with the drivers and trying to get the best from everybody. That was his ambition, but it kind of sadly didn't work out. The Gimpert says they're not only losing on track with these new rules, but a lot of fans will leave Formula One. Well, we'll see about that, the Gimpert, because Liberty are very plugged into Netflix and the younger generation, and a lot of them are saying this is Formula One on steroids. They've never seen it so good. So we need to bear that in mind. But thank you for your comment. Sam Taylor, 2012. Hi, Peter and Kenny. I'd love to know whether you think Michael Schumacher would love or despise the new regulations, as he was quite a tech-savvy driver. Interesting question, actually.
I don't think he'd enjoy it.
I'd have to agree with Kenny.
I worked with him for 5 years, so I think he's more of a purist, I think.
Yeah, and I think this is where there's a difference in understanding of these new regulations, because there you see Sam Taylor describing as a driver who would like these regulations as being a driver who is tech savvy. But in reality, virtually all the drivers are tech savvy. They're all sort of part fighter pilot, part athlete, part racing driver. They're all tech savvy by the time they get to Formula One. So it's not a question of whether you like the technology and you're very good at managing all the buttons on the steering wheel and you understand everything that the engineer's trying to do and the engine clipping and the whole thing. It's not a question of whether you understand that and you're good at that. It's a question of whether that is racing, that a racing driver really wants to fulfill all the ambition that he has as an athlete. That's my point about it. And my feeling is no, because I think if you start taking away the speed into very interesting, demanding corners, those corners, even if you're going in at the same speed that you would, ultimately, it's the approach speed that you've lost. And that's part of being a racing driver. It's understanding that how to use that approach speed to the absolute maximum.
And I think some of the drivers are even saying that the amount of power you get now in the straight, it actually makes it easier because it's you get the amount of power you can just overtake really, really easily. We saw that with the two Ferraris. You could say, well, that's fantastic. That's exactly what we want to see. So there has been a lot of overtaking, and I'm sure Liberty, that's exactly what Liberty want from this, and the FIA. But is it really? Well, I guess we're old school purists. I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. But I think the surprising thing is that there seem to be quite a lot of purists still. That to me is quite a surprise, because we sort of live in this world of, the days of the purists are over and it's all about instant gratification and number of overtakes. But that's not necessarily the case, is it? Anyway,
no, I want to see drivers use their skill getting through very high speed or low speed or whatever, or in the wet, being able to use all of their skills they possibly can, and that's what makes you the best driver. Not the driver that's the most tech savvy that can push the right buttons at the right time. Maybe I'm wrong, and I don't mind being criticised for it.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I don't think you're wrong, and I think, as I say, do you ever know a driver that isn't really tech savvy compared with the average human being? They're all tech savvy, aren't they? They're all pretty clever
Yes,
these days.
100%.
All the kids come through, they're all very good they're all computer literate, and they're all very good on simulators.
Yes, 100%. You just look at any F1 steering wheel for the last 15 years, right? They've always been, you've always been able to change diff settings, and all the other things that you want to do with it. So yes, they are tech savvy, and they have been for a while. But I don't know, is this a stretch too far for them?
Yeah.
Or for some of them.
Kenny, before we go any further, how much time have you got, mate? We haven't got.
I'm okay.
We can. Another 10 minutes. Would that work?
Yep.
We've got a lot of questions. We're not going to get through them all, but it's a good way for me to say at this point, will you come back and do another one of these fairly soon?
100% if anybody wants me to.
Brilliant. Well, we'll do that.
I haven't been so boring.
Yeah, of course we will. Reggae Wise just says lift and coast, as if that's something that we don't want to hear, and I think you're right. I was never a fan of lift and coasting. I don't even want to hear about it. It's a swear word for me. Yuzo Tibi says Michael even disliked the Pirelli tires in 2011 for not going full push through corners anymore. There are some interviews on the topic. He would have hated 2026 for sure. Well,
I think you remember, and I remember when I started Formula One, we had qualifying tyres. That was exciting for me because you'd put those on, and that would give you an idea of how good your driver was, because you had to have such big balls to know that you can go 1.5, 2 seconds a lap quicker. And if you put qualifying tyres on a car and you don't go faster, that driver isn't the man. And one of the best users of that was Nelson Piquet.
Interesting. Yeah. The Gimpet again. It's all Suzuka's my all-time favorite track this weekend, and for the first time in 40 years, I'm actually not looking forward to it. It's so sad, the state of Formula One. Oh well, let's hope it's not as bad as we all think.
Yeah, let's throw some positivity on it and say, yeah, it's going to be amazing.
Yeah.
Proof is in the
Bob
pie.
Featherly, having said that, I guess Formula One says Bob, from racing to entertainment. I've followed Formula One since 1964, but I've had just about enough. So Diego Marino, who's a good friend of ours, good friend of the channel, lives here in Madrid, in Spain, where the Mad Ring, as this new track in Madrid is called, has just put the tarmac down on what they say is the most steeply banked corner in the history of Formula One. I've got to say here, and I want to express my opinion here, I don't know what you think about this, Kenny, I don't see the point of banked corners in Formula One. The whole point is to make it quite difficult and for the driver to be correcting slides and finding the fastest way around any given corner. But as soon as you make it banked, it makes it a relatively easy corner for everybody. What is the point of that? It's not IndyCar. Why are they doing that? I know it looks great on TV, but I mean, what do you think, Kenny? I mean,
I think it's more of a spectacle than anything else.
Yeah, well, and
it's probably more, like I said, more for entertainment rather than the skill set.
Yeah. Dinesh Kumar says, Peter, recently on another channel in the race where they gathered information that when Charles Leclerc lifted in a corner, it actually triggered extra power boost, due to which he lost proper deployment in the proper straight. I don't know. Well, if that's the sort of thing you need to be tech savvy to understand, then Charles Leclerc's in trouble, I think, because he's just a racing driver, isn't he? And racing drivers don't need to think about things like that. And you lift off and you get more power. I mean, what's that all about?
Yeah, I'm not a fan of this.
Put the foot down and the power goes
aero,
away.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of this automatic aero either. I think
No.
you're taking that away from the driver. I think I think it's dangerous.
Yeah.
And I remember when we had a control back when we had the active car, we had push to pass where it used to lift the front of the car up and take all the wing off. So Michael was using it all the time just to overtake, and you could see him literally halfway out the corner. He's pushing push to pass to try and get the front wing off, because he'd gone 3/4 away through the corner anyway to get advantage. I think taking those devices away from the driver is wrong.
Yep.
And you lose skill set.
Funny, Kenny, I'm agreeing with everything you're saying. What a surprise.
Maybe we're just a pair of old miseries.
Well, there you go. Yeah, definitely. Diego Moreno, just to repeat, I don't know if we read it out. I'll read it again because it's such nice reading. Hi, Peter. From my experience working inside all the Formula One teams, Kenny was the best chief mechanic of them all. Always kind, always focused, the ultimate professional. And I should say Diego does a lot of work with the FIA in garages. He's one of these volunteers that wears the tabard all weekend in the thing. So
I know. Yeah, lovely guy.
And if anybody wants to think about doing so, you've often wondered who those people are in the garages. They're all volunteers, and you can actually apply to the FIA. You've got to do a course and all that stuff. But it's a fascinating thing for somebody that was interested in doing that. I would counsel people to have a look at that as something. It could be a lot of fun, a little bit different. Having said that, there's another thing that a friend of mine did for many years. He became a program seller at Monaco every year, which is not an easy thing to become, apparently. There's a lot of people want to sell programs at Monaco because you get into some nice places. Anyway, his thing was, once he became a regular program seller, he would buy his stack of programs and sell them on the Thursday and Friday, and then not bother with anything Saturday, Sunday, and just watch everything from Casino Square with a free pass on the outside. So yeah, nice. you can always take that route as well if you really want to.
I might start doing a bit of that in my time.
Yeah. Okay. Dinesh Kumar says that lift triggered power surge, explains Max's qualifying crash, Oscar's crash, Lindbergh's being sudden power surges due to slight lift, triggered boost mode, if we can call that, how to control that. Yeah, I know. When you see all those drivers of that quality all crashing and doing things under braking, you know that there's something weird going on, and that's the problem with the whole thing, isn't it?
Like I said, I think they should have they should have done the aero 1 year and the engine the following year. I think everything is just too much.
Yeah, no, as you said at the start of the show, I think you're right there, Kenny. Let's get back onto your picture. Actually, you're much more important than I am. Where are we? I'm just all over the place with this ridiculous question box. I think I use. I do use, because it keeps hiding itself, and I can't see what questions we've done. Right. Diego again. I remember once in Valencia during the race, Hamilton on the McLaren was sanctioned, which benefited Red Bull's race, and the mechanics got visibly excited about the penalty in front of the cameras. And then he's retracted the next bit. So anyway, Kenny was so upset of anyone showing any unsportsmanlike conduct in front of the television cameras. This noted the kind of respectful professionalism Kenny has, the ultimate sportsmanship example. Do you remember that, Kenny?
Not really, no.
No. I don't know what's happened now. I seem to have lost the. This thing's all over the place. I don't know why everything is so. I'm gonna have to go back to Mac's screen capture now. 1 second.
This is like the FIA 2026 regulations. It's all too complicated, Peter.
Well, it is. What can I say? Everything is difficult these days. I know what's happened. There you go. Let me just get back. People give me a hard time sometimes. Most people are pretty tolerant, but some people give me a hard time for not having everything perfect. But let me say this. McLaren couldn't get 2 cars perfect, could they? So,
no, I mean, that was gobsmacking, wasn't it?
Yeah, I know. Completely confused as to what's going on. This is so ridiculous. Sorry, mate.
Sorry.
For some reason, it's not showing your picture anymore, which is annoying.
Well, that's probably a nice for everybody else.
Not at all. It's zoom. meeting. How the hell has that disappeared? I don't know.
Maybe we've gone over time.
I think it could be that. Now we've got it back now, I think. Yeah, there we go. Finally, Windsor gets it organised. I don't know what happened there. The whole thing just completely crashed.
I think
while I was talking.
Zoom has timeout on it.
It is, yeah. So Kenny, we've got a lot more questions you haven't answered, and we'll have you back therefore. But before we go, I just wanted to talk to you about that logo on your mic, and you've started the podcast, which is a brilliant thing. Tell us about that, and so you're going to do, and you started the YouTube channel as well. It's brilliant.
Yeah, the first YouTube video has gone out this week. We were doing it started off by Mark Grain, who's a very, very good dear friend of mine. We worked together at Benetton back in 1990, I think it was, 91, on John Barnard car. Became very good friends. He then left to go to Williams, and then he left there. He's done multiple things, and then he went to McLaren for 30 years, and we stayed in touch, very good friends, and we were having conversations. We said, well, should we just knock this out and see where if anybody's got any interest in this? We didn't look at it as a podcast. We look at it as it's a 25-minute, 30-minute, or whatever it takes, the conversation goes, as a friendship phone call. And we talk about current stuff. We're not deep diving into technical clipping and this, that, and the other, because we don't want to go there. We talk about the old times and the new times, and we want it to be fun, and people want to ask questions. They're more than happy to ask questions and etc. But our podcast is very different. We're going to have a lot of guests on. Hopefully you'll be one of them, Peter.
I'd love to. I'd learn a lot.
And we've got the likes of old engineers like Frank Durney that are going to come on, and just it's going to be it's all about being fun and talking about some of the old days and what their vision is on what do they think how it is today. And just it's just a bit of fun, to be honest.
Well, and you can find that on, I presume, most of the leading podcast platforms, and also YouTube now, right?
Yes, YouTube has just gone out live. Yes, Monday.
Excellent. So we can actually see you two talking away. Where do you do it from where you're sitting right now? And
yes.
Is that your study?
Yes, that's my office, home office.
I feel nervous that this has gone on for an hour, Kenny, because I'm concerned that you might be late for work. But then again, you answer to yourself, I presume, do you?
No, I still have some chores to do. I've got my chain of command, and obviously I respect that. So
yeah.
But I have flexibility in my calendar. I work strange hours as well. So
Good.
I'm a global director, so I have to be answerable, from all around the world. So
excellent. What do you drive on the road, as a matter of interest?
Well, I've got a Lucid, obviously.
Yeah, I know, but is there only one type of Lucid, or are there many?
I've got a Grand Touring. I'm just about to take delivery next week of the new SUV, the Gravity.
Right. And Lucid are doing some work for Aston Martin now, right?
We have a partnership with the road car side of it. Yes, supplying powertrains.
Interesting.
They're a little bit behind with that. I think they're having a bit of a reorg, but we've signed a very big deal with those guys a year or so ago.
And I think you have a partnership with Panasonic for batteries. Is that right?
Yeah.
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 Do you get involved in that at all? I only mention it because batteries are such a big talking point in Formula One now.
No, I mean, my departments, they are technical, but we're technical service operations. So we're involved in writing all the service procedures, the flat rate times for warranty, etc. I have a tooling teams, special design tooling team. Actually, my designer for tooling is Paul Nickel, who's an ex Red Bull Toro Rosso designer. So I've got the best tooling designer in automotive, I think, and he's doing some amazing tools for us amongst the events teams and lots of other teams.
What a coincidence that he works for you guys. I wonder how that came about.
Yeah. Yeah, it was like, I want to come and live in California. I said, okay, I'll work something out for you.
Brilliant. Kenny, I'll let you go, buddy, because I know it's a very busy time for you. Well, it's always a busy time. I know you've been very gracious with your time, and
No,
thank you
thank
very
you,
much.
Peter. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks on behalf of all the viewers as well, and a direct thanks to you viewers for the questions and being involved. There's a lot we didn't get through. My apologies for that, but we will get Kenny back, and we got a little bit of time. Maybe it'll even be after Japan. We might get him back for a sneak.
Yeah, I'm happy to sit in around you, Peter.
Well, that'd be brilliant.
It's been a
Thank you very
pleasure.
much, Kenny. So I'll let you
Absolute
go, buddy.
pleasure.
Thank you so much, Kenny.
Thank you.
And have a
Cheers.
great day. Yeah?
Thank you very
And
much.
yeah, if you can just sign out of the Zoom call now, Kenny, and I won't finish yet. I'll just keep going through some of these questions. Some of them will be directly related to Kenny, I would guess, but we've got Christian Samodi, who's just joined as a channel member. Thank you very much indeed, Christian. If you haven't joined, it's not compulsory by any means, but it's an invite. You will have access to some special content that we'll be producing throughout the year, that we have produced already. Sometimes it'll be priority viewing, perhaps of some upcoming interviews, which I won't give the details of yet, but we got some fairly interesting ones we're talking to at the moment, trying to make them happen. And of course, we'll have some backstage stuff over the Grand Prix weekends as the year progresses as well. So if you'd like to join as a member, that would be an excellent thing. Some of the other questions, David Brown says, I love the wolf front wing of the Formula One Mercedes at Japan. Okay, I haven't seen that yet, but I'll have a look out for that. Thank you very much. Digital Lauritsen says, I had a car that had a terrible harmonic resonance. I wonder what that was. Oh, it was a Ford Crown Victoria 2001. Okay, well, we'll stay away from that one. Thank you very much. It was modified, had a supercharger. Excellent. Okay, brilliant. That's right. Guys, I thought that all these, this is from Christian Samodi again, I thought all these big changes came because the Netflix generation was not as mechanically minded. They didn't understand the tech side anyway. Is this better for them? Well, actually, as I say, we had a few people, a few viewers on the live stream yesterday saying, we're young, we're in our 20s, and we don't want this. So I don't know where they got that idea from. But anyway, no doubt. As I say, it's quite polarized, this whole thing, isn't it? Jim Clark. That's actually my real name, he says, from Maranello. Wow, Jim Clark from Maranello. Anyway, what a great thing. What a great name. What a great place. Jim Clark. I was trying to think if he ever went to Maranello. Yeah, I'm not sure he did. He definitely went to Bologna because he went to the Lamborghini factory to meet Gianpaolo Dallara and look at the P400 Miura in '67. Before the Italian Grand Prix, but I don't think he ever went to Maranello from memory. Right, let's have a look. So that's great. Jim Clark, Biochem Girl 123 says, it's somehow sad that those kinds of stories can't really happen nowadays with cost caps and labor caps and corporate caps. Yeah, it is. I'm sure the people in Formula One today have their own stories, and there will be lots going on behind the scenes that we never get to see. But the problem is they're not allowed to talk about them. That's the real problem. I was talking to Kenny about this before the show, that because he was saying, how many races do you go to? And I say, well, as few as possible, really, because it's not much point. It's just the torture of the travel. And you get there, and it's nice to bump into old friends. But even if you know the people who are working in the teams, some of the mechanics, engineers, as we all do, race drivers, you're not allowed to talk to them anymore out of context. You can't talk to them away from, well, some of them you're not allowed to talk to at all, but you're allowed to talk to drivers unless it's a set piece interview. So what is the point? It's just ridiculous. So Jim Clark says, stop worrying about super clipping. They'll be going flat out again before you know it. Well, I hope you're right, Jim. It's Renfara Sembalis says, it seems like Max tested a Super GT 500 car. GT cars he's driven the majority of front engine. Is there a possible reason you think, Peter? I don't think the car he raced last year at the ring was front engine. I think it was a mid-engine Ferrari, was it not? This one is front engine, obviously. And I don't know. I mean, I think it's just because it is the most competitive car that he could get hold of for that race, that series on the Nürburgring, and knowing that it was front engine, he probably thought, oh, that's quite good, massive oversteer everywhere, excellent, should be good fun. So I think it was that. I don't think he thought he had to have a you know, a front engine car. Max has also tested a GT3 Mustang. Yeah, there's quite an interesting video out, a Ford video, I think it must be, where he and Arvin Lindblad drive. They select from going back from a Model T right up to a modern, you know, I don't know, whatever it is, some sort of GT3 car. They can select two cars to do a drag race and then do laps against one another. And Max at one point chose, I think it was an electric super truck thing, which he was quite quick in. But I was quite impressed that Lindblad chose the 66 Le Mans GT40 and drove it pretty well, actually. He managed to, I think, cook the clutch on a Boss 307 Mustang GT off the line, but he got into the GT40 quite well. And Max looked really good. They both looked very good. I'm very impressed with what Lindblad was doing there. So yeah, Peter. Steve still plays games, says, I think I have to make this the last one actually. I've been an F1 fan since the days of Francois Sever. Ah, wonderful. What a loss he was, and what a great guy. But this season is leaving me cold, and I've actually now cancelled my Sky F1 subscription. Well, it's very sad, isn't it, that Formula One is, you know, is doing that. I mean, it should be catering. I know there's so much emphasis on the young generation, but don't forget, the older generation actually have a lot more money, and you know, to isolate them to the point where people are not renewing subscriptions is not very good. And yeah, you know, interesting, since the days of Francois. Interesting you would relate it to Francois, who's a lovely guy, lovely deep, very deep French accent like this when he spoke in English, always smoking, gitane, and just so charming, ice blue eyes, and just a great guy. So funny he was. Right. So the Jim Clark post, the two mechanics on my Discord channel for, if we can do all we can to get subscribers for Kenny, that would be brilliant, because he's doing a good job. You know, Peter says, thanks for the live stream, Peter. Well, thank you very much. I say thank you to Kenny for the live stream, because very good. And he says, yeah, Francois was my first Formula One hero. Yeah, well, I got to know Francois a little bit in '72, and I remember flying back from, I don't know where, well, it must have been the South African Grand Prix, and he was he basically wanted to have the 4 seats in the middle of the 747 in business class. He wanted to have them. He wanted all the other passengers to move so he could sleep across the 4. And of course, you know, it was quite a big thing to ask the flight attendants in those days to do something like that, and even bigger today, no doubt. But she was very nice, the flight attendant, and Francois just charmed her into it. And I was standing next to him, and he said, "Oh, but you must understand, I'm doing a test for the Le Mans 24 hours next week, and I must be very fit for the test. I'm driving for Matra." And she was sort of, oh, okay, whatever, and she tucked him in. Yeah, Francois Sever, what a guy. Yeah. Trail Break 3 says, I own a 67 Lamborghini Miura car in my Gran Turismo garage. Well, Trail Break 3, I'm very, very jealous. One of my all-time favorite cars. The last decent Lambo, I think. No, shouldn't be saying that. We're not allowed to say things like that. But no, I love the P400 Miura particularly. And I think Jim Clark liked it too. I think he was trying to persuade Colin to buy him one, but Colin wasn't very impressed. The Great Exaggerator, thank you, sir. Thank you. Well, thank you, everybody, for being a part of this. Taylor, sorry, there's a super chat here from Taylor TC. There is this addiction to overtakes by the powers that be. Why not open up track limits? Good point. Good point. Not sure that would work around Monaco, of course, but no, I know exactly what you're saying. You know, they go on and on and on about we've got to have more overtakes. So you're right, you know, have more track limits. Terrible, isn't it? So cynical, aren't we all? I haven't got through all the questions, but we got through quite a lot of them. I think we've done reasonably well. Wonderful story. Thank you, Peter. It's Alpha Topico says, I think it's not the younger generation, but Greta that ruined F1. Greta? Who's Greta? Don't know Greta. Don't know what that is. Anyway, I'll sign off now, everybody, because because it's a big weekend coming up. Japan, up early, doing all that stuff. So I'll be doing the 3 videos, and hopefully we'll have some decent hopefully the corners will be able to be what they are, which is great corners, and won't be watered down, and we'll see the great drivers doing something on them. We live in hope. Let's see what happens. I'll be doing a video Friday, Saturday and Sunday. Big thanks to TrackNinja, to OEM Exclusive, Jetcraft and REC Watches for the support of this channel, and you, the viewer, most importantly, for the support as well, and making shows like this doable. Thank you very much. Take care. See you.